that you, in one of your teachings, that made it possible for me to take the actions that I did. And
What was it?
it was something along the lines of, I don't have the capacity at the moment to accept the opportunity that's been presented to me.
Oh, yeah.
And then to look at it as, I know there was another step to it, but whether it was going to cause harm, suffering or not.
Yeah.
Whatever action I decided to take, whether it would cause more suffering or less suffering, something along those lines.
Yeah, those two have helped me so much, all from my teachers. Where was this thing? Oh, yeah. Okay, so as we gather back, maybe you want to take a minute and think about if you have something to share about your practice, some questions, some challenge, something that's going well can be shared also.
I have a question. Zopa, I'm trying to remember who it was. If it was Michael last week, it was somebody recently. At the end, when we dedicated the merit, they referenced, I think it was maybe Milarepa, saying that it's the dedication of the merit, the saying of the dedication of the merit that actually, I can't remember how it was said, but that it actually, therefore, does, bring about the value of the merit of whatever it is. And it's kind of stuck with me for a week or two, and I've been kind of wondering about that, which I think I have a guess as to why that is, but I've been sort of thinking on the other side, like just kind of contemplating it in my head, like, well, if someone did something very compassionate or something, would there somehow be a loss? Like, would some of the merit sort of not get, would it kind of slip away if there was no official like dedicating of it? Anyway, it just kind of has been kind of bouncing around in my mind a little bit. I thought I'd ask you about that.
Yeah, well, I'm curious what your guess is when you say you think you have a sense of it.
My guess is that, from what I understand in the Dharma teachings, that our experience is entirely through our own selves, our own minds, our own senses, our own lens on existence and reality. Therefore, if I dedicate the merit, then I am remembering to be mindful of that. Like, oh yeah, I was compassionate to somebody, I should dedicate the merit of that, so that in my own experience, I'm fully experiencing it. Which makes me then, for example, that would make me feel good. Like if I help somebody and then I quickly said, I dedicate the merit of this. Like that would be a happy experience for me. So as opposed to if I was sort of on autopilot, kind of asleep, sort of doing stuff or whatever, and I didn't really think about it. I didn't really, dedicate the merit, and I wasn't mindful of it.
Yeah.
Then I might actually sort of miss it, like a lot of stuff that we miss when we're sort of just going along through life, half asleep on autopilot. That's kind of my guess.
Yeah, I think that it's a part of it. Each of these things, like a dedication, function on levels. So let's take just what you were saying, like a virtuous action, an action that's helpful to someone. On the most common level, it's a good thing, right? The most common relative level. Even someone's not a Buddhist, they're not a Christian, they just do something kind. And maybe they do it out of habit. It's just a habit. Or maybe even they do it out of fear. Like, I'm nice because I don't want to get yelled at for not being nice, or I don't want to get thrown out of the group. So the motivations for doing something positive range from something very base, like maybe it's habit and fear, not too much motivation about the other. You know what I'm saying? More like centered around me. Like motivation can be completely locked up in my 8 worldly dharmas. I'm doing it for my reputation, praise for me, my gain. You know, maybe I want to look good at work to get a promotion. So it can go from that kind of level. Then kind of a middle way is when we say these prayers, you know, I dedicate the merit to all other beings. It's like I did something good, and I want to give that positive momentum away. That lifts it out of that self-centered place. So now we're kind of on a middle place. And at an even vaster level is seeing, doing the action with the experience of there's actually no separate giver, giving, and receiver. So that would be the ultimate dedication, is I can't give without you being there. So one way toward that, a teacher kind of astonished me, and I've tried to keep remembering this, is, you know, there's a homeless person on the street. You should thank them for giving you the opportunity to give, rather than, oh, that poor pitiful person, and I'm doing something. But thank you, because wow, without you being there, I can't practice my generosity. So that deep interconnectedness, and the dedication prayers, as you were saying, remind us of that. Like, oh, this just isn't me doing something cool and good. This is bigger. And then the biggest is there is no separate actor. What do they call it? The 3 spheres. You'll see this phrase. The 3 spheres. That's the actor, the action, and the receiver. The emptiness of the 3 spheres. Empty of being separate. Yeah. So it functions on at least those three levels and beyond, you know.
Would you say that it is similar then, like in the case of the homeless person, that we would be grateful for to allow us to be able to be compassionate? That makes a lot of sense.
Uh-huh.
Would it be similar if it was different? Like if a person did something that, you know, made me very upset, very angry, or very fearful, or something like that, where I then would have an opportunity to practice. In other words, like I have an opportunity to practice compassion and giving, say generosity, with the homeless person, but I have a different kind of opportunity to practice compassion if, you know, I experience anger, say, you know, or being upset during an interaction with a person that I felt was being disrespectful or something like that. Mm-hmm. Is it different, or is it the same, where I would still have, I ought to thank that person basically for...
Yeah, I think it's the same. Friend, you know, the other, the 3, friend, enemy, stranger, all opportunities for the Dharma. So, you know, we thank for these difficult people. Bodhisattvas thank difficult people for showing up in their lives. They may not say it to them directly, but in their hearts they're like, good, now I see. Now I see where I don't have patience. Now I see where I get scared. Now I see where I get angry. So thank you. You showed me that. That's the most challenging, goes without saying. I mean, we can thank, people on the opposite side of our political preferences. Thank you, because every day I feel anxious and upset, and I get to deepen my practice. There's a funny saying even, like what are called 10th level bodhisattvas. That's the level right before you fully awaken. The mind has become so refined, so steeped in generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, all of those, so steeped in loving kindness. Those bodhisattvas, they say, the classic teaching is, they look around for rough, tough, difficult people because they've gotten so good at it. They need somebody like, come on, disturb me. And it's kind of a funny thing to think about, but you could imagine that the mind does get that, in that awake, that it becomes difficult to find an appearance that can shake you up. I mean, look at the Dalai Lama, he does not get shaken up visibly by the Chinese. He has his plan and he keeps going. And, they do horrible things to his people. And I'm sure as a human, he suffers sadness, etc. He says he does. But he knows that that appearance of the enemy is an appearance of the enemy. And he takes it to practice. He doesn't go to war, He even, at one time, I remember back, when was that, around early 2000s, there was quite a call by a lot of Tibetan youth for boycotting Chinese goods to, further the Tibetan cause. And he put out a very firm statement, don't do that. It will harm the Chinese people. And we do not want to harm anyone. So, that's how he goes forward in that bodhisattva way. So someone like that, it becomes more and more difficult to find someone that you can really, get your kleshas up with and finally wake up. I mean, why you need to, that last push is to do the full awakening. These are the folks that wake us up, right? Everybody here has experienced that, right? If it's your brother, your former lover, your parent, your neighbor, the dog that bit you, the president, whatever it is,
Our very stable genius.
What's that?
Our very stable genius. Yes.
Yeah.
So what did you say those bodhisattvas are called? The
10th level.
10th level.
So the bodhisattva path that we are on, or that you enter, when you take the bodhisattva vow. Oh, by the way, we're talking about when this year Lama Mike will be able to give the bodhisattva vow, which is different than the refuge vow, because he does it every few years, and we've it's time. So we're hoping sometime this 2019 that will occur. These are called the bodhisattva bhumis. I think it's spelled Bhumi. And these are levels of realization that a bodhisattva goes through. And on each level, you can study them, you can look them up, bodhisattva bhumis. And on each level, you gain incredible powers, like of emanating, of being able to stay in certain mental states for days, hours at a time, being able to assist, thousands of beings at one moment, taking many forms. And you keep moving up these bhumis, and then the 10th level bodhisattva is right before full awakening to the Buddha mind. We all have the potential for this. They're quite fun to study because they just sound outlandish. the powers that come. But why not? I mean, the mind is infinite, unbounded. We don't use much of it because of the ignorance I was talking about. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. We've been talking about this, the whole dance between the relative and ultimate quite a bit in the equanimity and diversity class that I've started. We just had the second class. Gosh, that was just yesterday. And these days are kind of full. And the whole dance between, your question about dedication rose this up, between on the relative level, it's all the level of appearance, all 5 senses, and the confused mental sense. Then we have pure Buddha nature, which is not confused, right? But the 6 senses in Buddhism, 5 senses, which those, and then the 6 mental sense, which tells us stories about those 5 senses, which are pretty delusional. That's all on the relative level. There's a very funny saying about it. All things considered, there's, that OPB show, All Things Considered. So this one professor, Buddhist professor, Guy Newland, he says, well, here's how emptiness and relative are. The relative level is the show, all things considered, like everything, right? And the other, you just turn the channel and it's all emptiness all the time. And he said, like, the trick is those 2 channels are playing simultaneously and concurrently because they're completely fused together. But we don't, at our level, the best we can do is move in between them. Like, okay, now I'm on all things considered. Okay, now I'm switching over to all emptiness because I'm on my cushion. Now I'm switching back. But every appearance arises from within that unbounded, unfettered, open, indescribable, no thing. So when we're working on something like politics or racism or something, it becomes so clear how difficult it is to move through those. Because on a relative level, we do want to function in a very effective way and not sit there going, it's all empty. But the minute we make it too solid, we move into aversion and attachment, and we just add to the confusion and the suffering. It's fascinating, really. Totally fascinating, completely confusing to me. But a little less if you keep doing the 3 things that we do in Buddhism, study, that is read, listen, talk about the Dharma, contemplate it, do I experience it? Does it fit my mind, my life? And then meditate. It just moves along.
So I've been teaching this course on world religions, and I'm way behind in my grading. It's an online course, and so really all I do is, grade, a lot of grading. And the place that I have been stuck on, it's really kind of funny, is the chapter on Buddhism. And it's not that, it's funny, I'm actually physically stuck. In other words, there's so many students that it's taking me a long time to get through. I finally finished it last night, finished grading that section, but I should be way farther along in the grading. But I have found that when I'm responding to the students, they have an assignment and they have to explain Buddhism, answer a particular question about it, that I'm getting so into the answer because it's, kind of selfishly, it's me kind of exploring the ideas. And anyway, somehow or other, that reminds me of what you're talking about, this sort of moving between, I shouldn't really get stuck and caught up in these things. I really need to be moving along for their sake as well as for my sake.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm sort of caught on this, and at the same time, in a way, it's a good thing to be caught on because I feel that, I'm learning. I mean, I'm probably learning more than they are, and they don't know it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just a comment. It was just what was on my mind and was triggered by what Joe raised and what you're saying about being between the relative and the universal, or the relative and the ultimate.
Yeah, one of the ways I try and work my way out of that kind of stuff is go to kind of this Mahayana middle thing of about, well, it's not so middle, but I'm here for them, So they need this done. I'll have my time studying over here. I'm here for them, So like when I come here to sit up front here, and let's say it's an evening, myself doesn't want to do that. It's dark and I'm tired and I don't want to. Then, that's the I. It's just the I rising up. I'm caught up in these thoughts. I'm caught up here. But the minute I can conjure something in the mind that is for someone else. So like tonight, the thought that really helped me was, I thought, I'm doing this for Bill, because he taught all day. And usually he comes back on the all-day Sunday evenings. And we knew, when we knew he was going to teach all day, we knew I was going to come. But I really kind of encouraged myself, like, I would do this for Bill, not a problem at all. So we can play with our mind, like, what does my mind need to kind of move out of this place?
That is what I have been doing in order to get through it, is to think about them and say, they need me to move along here.
Yeah, there you go. And it does work. It lifts the mind right away to think, I'm doing this for someone else. And when we can't do that, it's spinning around this kind of very teeny, non-existent person who is not happy.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you. I am too. I'm always glad when I get here. I just need someone to come and drive me. No, I don't. No, that's a perfect example of how the mind can get confused. Like, here I am with this really fabulous opportunity. How many people get to spend time learning and sharing the Dharma as their retirement plan? Not very many. I don't know how many. I bet it's less than 1 million out of 7.5 billion, So the mind can get so small that it's like, well, I don't want to go out. It's, and it's not, I'm not being mean to myself when I say that. I'm just saying, I see that, Okay, I see that. But wow, that's crazy. Crazy thinking.
So maybe it's somewhat connected to what we were just talking about. Recently, I had like 3 or 4 days in a row of just crazy days at work. And my energy level was slowly going down every time I got home. And I had a really great streak of 30 days straight of meditation. And I was like, I'm going to keep the streak alive. And about like the fourth day, I was just like, I've got to go to bed. And I was like debating with myself back and forth. Can you just sit for 12 minutes? No, I just want to take a shower and go to bed. Anyways, the streak was broken. I took a shower. I went to bed. But I guess one of the questions I had at the time was like, is there some sort of minimum fuel that you need in the tank to have a quality? Well, you can't really expect the result, but, or, you know, if you were with the flu, you know, or just like you just don't have the energy, and you kind of noticed you were sort of in zombie mode for the past couple of days too when you were doing your 30 minutes or whatever. And so I just kind of let myself off the hook that day and moved on. But actually I probably haven't, because I'm still thinking about, man, should I have kept that streak going? And
as soon as I heard you in the first part of your statement say, I want to keep that streak going, that's going to be an obstacle. Yeah. Because what's the streak? I mean, you can describe it 30 minutes every day, Yeah, it's not the point. It's not the point.
No, it's not.
No. Because we can, it's kind of a form versus content question. I can do the form, you know, every day I'm going to sit, every day. It's a good aspiration. That's the form. And we want to have some of that, some building of the habit. But the point is to be awake. And it could be far more awake to say, I need to have a shower and go to bed. That may be the most awake thing that you could do in that moment. Now, no one will know except you. Was that more awake? And it sounds at least like it was compassionate, kind to yourself. And we always have to, this is tricky, because sometimes I'm saying, am I being kind to myself, or am I being lazy toward the Dharma?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was sort of
and so,
questioning. The streak is sort of another fun motivator, but...
And my point about the streak is, it's not... How do I say this? Marching in step day after day is not the point. That could be suffering or not suffering. The point is to end suffering, yourself and others. So it's really a difficult thing, this dance about laziness toward the Dharma, which is one of those, that's one of my teacher's phrases, but it's tied to my pleasure, you know, my pleasure. So that's on one hand. And then on the other hand is driving yourself in kind of a almost mean way. Like, do this no matter what you think or feel, because that lacks compassion towards self. And you'll do that to others then too, which they will not appreciate. So it's finding that, and no one can tell you, like you said, is there some minimal? When I'm getting much kinder to myself, and it's such a relief. Oh my gosh. And so if I don't feel good, I will, I don't stop doing Dharma, but I change the form. So like instead of sitting in front of my altar, you know, on the floor, or doing a bunch of prostrations or something, I lay down and I still keep my mind in the Dharma. Maybe I do Tonglen for everyone who's feeling that kind of illness. Maybe I try laying down and see now, do I really need this? You know, it's like run the experiment. We don't have to worry. We can loosen up a little and not worry like, oh my God, I'm going to lose the whole thing if I take a night off. Now, you may be the kind of person that you take a night off and you do lose the whole thing for a while, but you'll come back, you know. We get too tight, too loose, too tight, too loose, and that's one of the classic stories with the Buddha, when someone came to him with a similar question, and he said to the guy, "You play a lute, don't you?" And the guy said, "Yeah, you know, a lute, stringed instrument." And he said, "How's it go when the strings are really loose?" "Not so good." "How does it go when they're too tight?" "Not so good." He said, that's it. You're tuning your meditation practice instrument. And it's not, there's nobody can give you a guideline, because you have to give it to yourself. And the way we get it is we fall in the ditch, we get back up on the road. Then we fall in that ditch and we get back up on the road. Just like in a session, you know, in a session of calm abiding, you fall to sloppy, foggy, sleepy, and then you fall to really excited and 10,000 things going through your head. That's the same. Too tight. Oh, I've got too loose. I'm too tight. Just keep tuning. Gently, no judgment. And it is a tension between setting these goals, like I want to be able to do this every time. I'm going to do this every time. It's admirable. But it's like, pay attention to conditions. You know, to make myself do this time, not so good. Because that means the next 5 days I'm going to be in bed, you know, pushing through, giving myself more illness. Keep it sustainable. I like the words Lama Tara gave us in our retreat, gentle and precise. Gentle and precise. Whatever you do, be clear. That precision is clear. This is what I'm doing. Oh, I'm going to bed on purpose. Not, oh my God, I have to give up. I see the difference. I'm going to bed on purpose, with purpose, for the Dharma, so that I can make it sustainable. Then it's not a struggle. Yeah.
Tonight I noticed when you, right at the first, and you said, enjoy your meditation. And it just struck me, oh yeah, this isn't supposed to be work. I'm supposed to be able to enjoy the meditation. I realized, and I've heard that instruction before, but I need reminders, so thank you.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, for many, many years, I did not feel joy about this. It was just, and I brought that mind, I brought a mind to Buddhism of the same mind that got me through law school, working full time, that, got me through college as a poor kid. It's all like, just keep going. It's not supposed to be fun, And then you look at these lovely teachers, Khenpo Lodro Donyo is my favorite example. Wherever he goes, he's just bubbling with happiness and joy, just having a great time in the Dharma, no matter the conditions around, He's not oblivious, but he lives inside the Dharma view, which is he's on his way to full Buddhahood. He's probably already a Buddha. And so that's joyful all the time. And then he brings that to us. Who wants something, that's not joy? It's like today when when Peter Woods had the questions about activism, and we get anxious and all that. But the world, and we all get that. The world has a lot of that already. What we can bring through our practice is peace and happiness and joy and curiosity and loving, things the world does not seem to have right now. Yeah, so that's why we practice. But if we don't have that in our practice, then it won't be there. You show a lot of joy when you're around here. I notice that. It's good too. It helps us all.
I'm glad Linda said that. I'm glad that Linda said that, because when I heard that, I focused on something else. You said, enjoy your meditation. I said, my meditation. And I was thinking immediately that suddenly I felt alone, and I thought, but I'm here with all these people. And it's our meditation. That's what struck me. You know, that was the thing I thought, oh, suddenly I felt like the focus was on me, my meditation, but I came because I wanted to be a part of the group and to have it be our meditation. And so, and then I thought, but it's actually both. You know, I was sitting back there thinking it's both.
Yeah, because I'm not in your mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
Yeah, on one level, no difference, no self, no other. But on the relative level, you're working with your mind, I'm working with mine. Yeah, it is both.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it different when we meditate together here than in your own room?
Yes.
I'm so struck by that lately. I have fine meditations both places, and I have terrible meditations both places, but the support of the Sangha is just amazing. Even this small number, it's like someone else is here who wants to do this. And how precious is that? Mm-hmm. Think of the way the world is. I was thinking about that this morning in our day-long meditation. At one point, I was just looking around at this room just packed full of people, and I thought, this is so amazing. This is what these people want to do. On a Sunday morning, when there's so many things you can do, they want to be here and do this same thing. And I was just feeling this incredible gratitude. Like, I want to do this. I guess I could come all by myself, but there wouldn't be a building here if it was just up to me. And just that beauty of the lay Sangha, you know, that people just put all of that energy, money, time, love into this place and into practice, because they want to do what we are wanting. It's just so beautiful to find someone that cares the same way you do about something so important. Precious. So maybe I brought something to read in it. I was wondering if it would make any sense with what we are, but of course it does. and it really touches on this relative ultimate. So I just wanted to read this. It's a little bit long, but I think I'll just go through it and we'll see if there's any questions. If not, we can then dedicate what we've done tonight. So it's talking about the second turning of the wheel of the Dharma, which is related to what's called the wisdom literature. So the Prajnaparamita, the Heart Sutra, you know. Doesn't matter if you know that or not. Two great ideas are emphasized in this phase: emptiness and compassion. Emptiness is a further development of non-self. and of the interdependent nature of phenomena. Not only has the self discovered to be empty of any independent existence, but so too all phenomena have been discovered to be empty of any independent existence. The lack of independent existence of phenomena is emptiness. So the lack of independent, solid, separate existence is the emptiness. That's what it's empty of separate, solid independence. That truth is called the absolute truth, or ultimate truth, synonyms. On an ordinary level, the interrelated existence of phenomena, the way everything's interrelated, and the functioning of cause and effect, that is karma, are considered to be relative. To comprehend these two truths simultaneously is to maintain the middle path without falling into the extreme notions of solid existence or non-existence. Now this is the phrase I really love. With no ground to stand on and no concepts to cling to, the causes of suffering no longer operate. Isn't that great? Once we understand these two simultaneously, there's no ground to stand on, no concepts to cling to, and the causes of suffering no longer operate. So the end of suffering is understanding the ultimate and relative simultaneously. You appear, I appear, but there's no solid, separate, substantial Zopa here. There's some kind of phenomena with a label, causes, changing constantly. And if we can function that way, everything becomes non-suffering. This is wisdom, the opposite of ignorance. It has to be perceived experientially through meditative practice, not only through philosophical contemplations. Then it goes on, it says, compassion is the recognition that other beings like yourself are embroiled in lives of suffering exactly because we lack this understanding of emptiness. This suffering is not inevitable, but it is self-perpetuating until insight into the cyclic pattern arises. And that's why we do our calm abiding and insight, to see deeper and deeper. How does this mind function? Just sitting quietly and thoughts just go through. Then they can be like a cascade, a whole waterfall. Then really calm. Then this morning I found, I went off on some story for I don't know how long, and I didn't know I did it. And when I woke up, I was just sitting there, but when I woke up, I went, wow, I got lost in that for, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And it was a planning, I'm planning for next thing. But what Lama Michael says, the moment that we see it, we're awake. The moment that I went, hey, I've been lost, you're sprung right then. Isn't that cool? And that can be repeated over and over. As Bill was saying this morning, one drop of water, one drop of awakening in a cup at a time, pretty soon it's full, and there's nothing else but being awake. So that's the habit we're working on. Okay, anybody have a question, or we'll end 10 whole minutes early. Let's dedicate. Give this more meaning than it already has.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Thanks.
We'll be in retreat starting Thursday evening, so we will think of you and hope that you can join us in the winter retreat. Yeah. No, we don't have it. 3 days. Yeah, sometime in those 2 months. Yeah. Yeah, block them off and see. And then the announcement.